Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'd. Ahabatifillah, a question was asked, how do you manage studying, taking care of a family, spending time with them, and working? I think this question has been asked many times, and I've answered it in one form or another many times, but I would just say, in short, when it comes to studying in general, seeking doing talab al-ilm, as the scholars mention, that seeking knowledge, it has different ahkam. It has, and what I mean by ahkam here is, I mean it has different different rulings as far as when it's wajib, when it's mandub or mustahab, when it's recommended, when it's wajib, and when it actually could perhaps even be fitting those other ahkam, when it could be, in a sense, depending on how you're going about it, it could actually be muharram. What kind of scenarios would that be? Well, if you were to say you want to seek knowledge, which has unfortunately been the case for many brothers we've had in the West, especially in the West in general, some of the brothers have abandoned their families. They left them to go to study in Yemen and places like this without any provisions, without any, thinking that they were doing something good by seeking knowledge. Now, the asl of that seeking knowledge, of course, would be something which is at least mustahab, at least recommended. And depending on the scenario and what type of knowledge you're seeking, meaning is it knowledge that's wajib in and of itself, like you need to know about tawheed, you need to know how to pray. That is ilm wajib. This is knowledge which is an obligatory knowledge upon every Muslim. And so to know something about their deen. So if you are abandoning your family, which some brothers have done, then this is not something which is recommended. The ulama mention about that. There's fatwa out there where the scholars have been asked this question, and they mentioned that no, you don't abandon your family, and that you do not sacrifice a wajib for that which is mustahab. And I forget the exact alfaz of the qaida. It's a principle that you don't la tuqaddim al-mandub al-wajib or mithla hada. So you do not give precedence to that something which is recommended to that which is wajib. That's very important. And so then there can be those times when it can actually be muharram. If you are in a situation like that, you have no provisions, you're not giving provisions to your family. Likewise, if you go seek talab al-ilm, you have no money and you expect and beg from the people, to support your talab al-ilm. Not that you have an arrangement or something else, but you are actually just going and just begging from the people. Even if it is to sustain yourself, this is not necessarily a good thing that you are going to beg so that way you can seek knowledge. But rather, the most noble and better thing to do is to have your own provisions, or to have some sort of provisions without begging the people, and to be able to do your talab al-ilm with those resources. So how do you manage studying and taking care of a family and spending time with them and working? Well, there's a variety of scenarios out there, but in general, many students of knowledge that I've known and seen, for example, in Medina, study in the Islamic universities, or in Mecca, or in Yemen, and those scenarios are quite different in that the Saudi scenario, there's usually much greater access to resources and wealth, and likewise, those students are on scholarship to seek knowledge, whereas Yemen, often the people made their own sacrifice and they had to spend out of their own wealth. So some of the people, they prepared by saving an amount of money, and that allows for them to seek knowledge without working and, pay rent and have their family with them and devoting some time with them, recreational time, and without working. And then there are others who have to work. Okay, so it just depends on the scenario. But in general, how do you do that? Well, you do that by simply, if you have a job and you're working in Saudi Arabia, for example, or some other Muslim country, Egypt or what have you, and you're teaching English, or you're a doctor, or whatever the case may be, whatever your profession is, that you're bringing in your income and you're allotting some time to do some talab al-ilm, and you're allotting some time for your family. So that is a management. Often what happens is there is a degree, there probably will be some taqsir. There's going to be shortcomings somewhere. Okay? It's very difficult to have that exact balance. And some families are more conducive to doing talab al-ilm themselves. So sometimes you have a husband and a wife that are seeking knowledge, learning Arabic at an institute or studying together or whatever the case may be. That can help. And then sometimes it's not that scenario, but as you mentioned, it's a management. So you have to try to give everyone their rights, give everyone their haqq. Your wife has a right over you. And if you have children, your children have rights over you. And if you have, and your body has a right over you, etc. So you try your best to try to keep a balance and not to make that not to have an imbalance. Because when you have an imbalance, or especially if it's an extreme imbalance, and if your family is not understanding, you can lose your family. Your family maybe wants a divorce, maybe they leave, go back to their country, whatever the case may be. But that's why it's very important to give everyone their rights and try to balance things as best as you can. Devote some time for your studies, and perhaps that might be most of your time. But if you're a worker, maybe most of your time is spent working, and then you're devoting some time to talab al-ilm and squeezing some time in for your family. And maybe you have an agreement that you will make that sacrifice for a portion of time. Maybe, okay, when I finish the university or when I finish such and such, then we'll be able to spend more time. We'll be able to do those things, those fun things. But obviously the best is if you can manage and give everyone their rights without sacrificing too much. And we ask Allah the Almighty to accept our good and forgive our evil. Bless us with ikhlas, with the bad. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad.